Welcome to another exciting edition of Fact of the Matter 2012. I'm your host, Dan Bixler. Tonight we continue with our part 2 of the special convention edition from last week. First, we'll start where we left off in last week's debate on common ground. Now, let's kick it over to me for the first question of tonight's episode.
And do you have any other comments, or what do you think Obama really needs to do and Biden in order to step up their
Well, they came out of the convention looking very strong, and the record speaks for itself. We talked about platform, the necessity for platform issues, and when candidates offer themselves, they pledge what they intend to do when they are elected. Obama pledged to make sure that millions in America who were denied access to health care will get it. He delivered. He promised that he'll be strong on security. Osama bin Laden, we've gotten rid of him. And he's not a factor for us to think about, even though we still have some of his allies hanging around and trying to cause havoc to American interests globally. So you take one issue after another, and Obama has truly delivered. And the economy, I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Mary knows that Obama inherited a very bad economy from the Bush administration. Bush was fighting 2 wars and cutting taxes for the wealthy, and you cannot spend more than what you bring in. I mean, it's common arithmetic, as Clinton rightly said. I mean, your expenditure should not exceed your revenue. And that was what Bush did. He worsened the economy. We were going down steep in terms of the decline of the economy. Obama came with a stimulus package. He was able to restore the auto industry. And then he beefed up the educational opportunities in terms of national security. We're better today than we were years ago. And so when you look at the totality of it, yes, people vote their pocketbook, but they have to ask this question. The guy who has brought us this far and put in the various mechanisms for us to get out of this hole, should we continue to give him the benefit of the doubt, or should we bring someone else that we cannot trust? Someone who pays about 13% national tax as compared to his secretary, who may be paying about 25%. Somebody who outsourced businesses to the Cayman Islands and China and India, and then deserted the American worker. Is this the kind of person that you want to trust? Somebody who is advocating for the elite of the society and not the downtrodden of the society. These are the questions that people will have to ask in the final analysis. And again, one of the things that make America a country where many people strive to move to, and why many countries want to do business with the U.S., is because of our foreign policy. It is okay for a candidate not to have sufficient foreign policy experience. But when candidates who run for a presidency lack foreign policy experience, they bring in people who can address that deficiency. Right. And when Obama became virtually the nominee of the Democratic Party, guess whom he brought? Joe Biden, who for several years chaired the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate. Very versatile in foreign affairs. So definitely who would be his chief advisor, just like how Dick Cheney was to President Bush. But whom did Romney bring? A novice, a first-term congressman, to be his vice president. Why? Because of pressure from the Tea Party. We are not voting for tea parties or coffee parties or whatever parties individual. We are voting for people who can come and make America retain its position in global affairs as the strongest nation that we can ever make it to be. And foreign policy, you cannot divest foreign policy from domestic agenda because they go hand in hand, they complement each other. And I like Romney, he's a nice guy. I mean, if it comes to business for his own, he can use his talents to better his own pocket. But it's not what Romney can do for Romney, it's what a candidate can do for America that we're looking for. And Jesse Jackson once said that he would take Roosevelt in a wheelchair over Reagan on a horse. And I will take Obama, who retrieved a coffee table from a dumpster anytime, than Romney, who has corporate jets of his own running up and down and would steer the country into economic disaster if he's given the opportunity to govern this country.
All right, anything else you'd like to, I'm sure you have?
Well, well, with all due respect to my good friend and esteemed senior colleague, Dr. Agbango, you know, this idea of him not having any foreign policy experience, of course, you know, Mitt Romney's going to do the same thing that President George W. Bush did as governor. He's going to bring in, you know, top people in foreign policy area to help him make decisions. I like to point out that in foreign policy with Joe Biden, yes, he did have that position in the Senate and Senate Foreign Relations Committee. But if you go back and look at his positions over the past 30 years or so, Joe Biden has always been on the wrong side of the policy making in foreign policy. He's always supported the opposite side as the president and ultimately turned out to be wrong.
And so, Dr. Agbango, what do you think they could have done differently at all or anything? Was there anything that you think they could have done differently to do better this year? Or do you think they hit all the points that they had to and everything really with this convention?
Well, you see, I don't want to fault the Romney camp for not clearly stating what they intend to do if they are given the opportunity to govern. Because, as I said, they were very much disorganized, not due to their fault or their incompetence, but because of the hurricane and the weather. And then they had to cramp things up. I'm sure there were some people whom they had to take off from the speaking slot because they didn't have time. And I'm sure Romney would have loved to say a whole lot to the world and to America so that he'll be given the chance to govern this country if he had much to say. Some will say that he didn't have much to say. And I think that he should have addressed the issue of the military. In his address to the nation, he never mentioned about the gallant work that our soldiers are doing in Afghanistan. He never paid credit to the military for what they did in Iraq. He never gave a vision as to where he wants to take us vis-a-vis our relations with the Arab world. You know, he never addressed the issue of the Arab Spring in his acceptance speech. And Rand came and gave a lot of inaccuracies, which when people checked the facts thereafter, they faulted him in many of the figures that he presented. He is supposed to be the economic guru, but he failed in that dimension. But you see, people have good intentions, and people make mistakes either willfully to win points for a day because they feel that after people listen to them, a larger percentage will not have the chance to go back and fact check. And if they don't have a chance of hearing them again, they may get the benefit of the doubt and get their vote. So they deliberately distort the facts. On the other hand, I'm not here to advocate for a democratic platform, even though I cannot say that I'm not a liberal, and I cannot say that I don't support the liberal cause. The facts speak for themselves. If the two parties, a party stands for the very wealthy, well, the very wealthy are very few. The elite of our society are seriously few. The middle class is quite large. Which party is fighting for the middle class? And our middle class is shrinking. It's not shrinking from the top, it is shrinking from the bottom. More and more people are losing their houses, are losing their homes, and so on. The question to ask is not only, are we better off today than we were yesterday? The question to ask is whether will we be better off tomorrow with Romney or will we be better off tomorrow with Obama? And the choice is very clear. From the systematic steps that Obama has taken us through difficult times and arresting the decline of the auto industry, arresting the decline of the housing industry, and trying to bring back jobs, we have arrested the decline of job losses, the increase of job losses, and we're beginning to pick up. Not as much as we should as a country, but we're getting there. I believe that if we have to go back into the Bush-era policy of giving more to the rich and taxing the middle class to death and ignoring the working poor, we will become the third world of the first world. And that is my fear. Yeah. And so if you ask me what they need to do, well, I can only say that any candidate who wants my vote and who wants the vote of my family and my neighbors and my friends, that candidate should address my needs, not the needs of those who have wealth and want to get more by cutting taxes. The crux of the matter is that rich people are wealthy, but they can only enjoy their wealth if they are given enough protection by the state in terms of national security, in terms of police force, in terms of the military, that they can safely enjoy their wealth. But if they don't contribute their quota, where will we have the revenue to make sure that we maintain social order, to enable our economy to grow, to let us stand among nations and be one of the world's top growing economies. China, that used to be number 10, is now number 2 in terms of world-leading economy. Where will China be 10 years from now? And what kind of domestic policy should we have? What kind of international policy should we have? You see, you have to ask yourself, where was America standing globally 4 years ago? We even lost our natural allies. France would not do business with us. Germany just tolerated us. But today, they are back to the fold. How did that happen? Because Obama came to the scene and acknowledged the fact that no one country is an island. No country is an island. We are all interdependent, and you can only move forward by bringing along your natural allies to see your point of view and seeing their point of view and working with them. You know, there's one thing that Dr. Strine and I will always agree upon, and that is the future of the young ones, the future of those who are in college today and those who will be in college tomorrow. Education is the key factor. If you compare the two parties, which of the two parties wants to invest more in education, to invest in the future of this country? Clearly, if you look at their platforms, it's the Democratic Party. You know, one of the candidates, I'm glad that he didn't make it, Santorium, said that what is the point in sending kids to college? Let them drop out of high school and work in the auto industry, work in the farms and so on. Who says that if I go to college and have a PhD, I can't go back to work in the farm? I will go back to work in the farm with better tools if I'm well educated. I'll go and work in the auto industry or even sweep gutters or even build bridges with better technology and better know-how. That is why we need to invest in education. And that is one of the big obstacles or one of the big problems with the platform of the Republican Party. You know, both parties mean well. The only problem is that what method are we going to take to get there? Now, I came here in the 80s. Reagan was in power. I heard this whole talk that Dr. Strine is saying here, that if you allow the rich to take more money home, they will invest and give jobs to the working poor and so on and so on. They call that Reaganomics. In those days, we called that what it was, trickle-down economics. Nothing trickled down. And we're still waiting for the wealthy who take back more in taxes, in tax cuts, to let it trickle down so that the vast majority of the people who are suffering can make more money. It doesn't just happen. You know, I don't want to talk about political philosophy or the basic Marxist philosophy and so on, because the point is that in order to maximize profit, people have to exploit the working poor so that they can maximize profit. One way is not to pay sufficient taxes to take care of the system and let the system work. And so you cannot tell me that Warren Buffett, who is a multi-billionaire, who says that let the rich pay more taxes, he is wrong. He's been there. He's played by the rule. He's made his money. But he says that it is wrong for him to pay less taxes than his secretary. All we're saying is that those who have been able to use the system, who have taken advantage of the peaceful domain because the government has provided enough security for their businesses to thrive, and they have made so much money, let them pay their quota to help support the system. That's all we're saying. And failure to do that would mean that jobs will dry, would mean that Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, all those programs will dry up.
All right, so why do you think that Clint Eastwood's speech received so much media attention compared to like all of the other speeches that happened at both conventions, really?
Well, because it was different. I watched the Clint Eastwood speech, and I was on the sofa with my wife and kind of looked at each other like, okay, what's going on here? The whole joke was supposed to be, you know, obviously, Clint Eastwood interviewing President Obama on an empty chair. Clint Eastwood went off script. He is an 83-year-old man. I guess he decided to go off script. My understanding that the script as it was written was very good. It was very funny. But he just went off script and it kind of got bizarre. And
how did you feel about that?
Well, in the first place, Clint Eastwood is an actor. that is not a place for actors. But if you have to bring someone who is an actor of his reputation, he should have gone to make a short, good speech endorsing Romney, and that would have done a lot of good. People have high respect for Clint Eastwood, but he tried to make a joke of something which did not merit a joke, and therefore I think he misfired. He did more harm to the platform than good.
I think that's
So I agree with Mark.
I think that's where we find common ground.
Yeah, I agree with Mark.
All right, yeah, we find common ground there. Clint Eastwood, I was a missed shot. All right, well, I think we also found though today that the definite big hitting thing is the economy that both parties really need to address now, because it seemed to be the biggest issue that you guys kept on bringing up as well. It's really like, the standout thing. But I'm very thankful to have you guys both on the show today for us, and thank you very much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's nice to debate you,
Nice
Mike.
to debate
All
you.
right. Okay.
All right, and that is it for us here at Common Ground, and now we'll take it over to Tony and Pat, and we're about to get down. Welcome to the first edition of the Get Down segment and the final part of tonight's show. I'm your co-host, Pat Fisher.
And I'm Tony Drain. Tonight we'll be taking a look at some political speeches and advertisements. We'll dig a bit deeper than what meets the eye in order to uncover the truth and find out just how honest the 2012 presidential candidates are in their campaigns. Let's get down to business.
Mitt Romney recently released an ad using clips of Bill Clinton speaking his mind about Barack Obama and what appears to be his economic policy. However, something about it didn't sound right, so let's take a closer look at it.
As the economy gets worse, Barack Obama calls on Bill Clinton to help his failing campaign.
It's about which candidate is more likely to return us to full employment.
He's a good soldier, helping his party's president. But what did Bill Clinton say about Barack Obama in 2008?
Give me a break. This whole thing is the biggest fairy tale I've ever seen.
23 million Americans struggling for work, a middle class falling further behind.
Give me a break.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
Now that we have seen the ad, let's fact check it. Given the context of the ad and its focus on the economy, viewers might assume Clinton was talking about something to do with Obama's economic policy. He wasn't. Rather, while stumping for his wife in 2008, Clinton expressed his frustration with what he viewed as the media giving Obama a free pass regarding Obama's position on the war in Iraq. As you can see, Clinton's quote was taken out of context and is meant to imply to the viewer that Clinton is bad-mouthing Obama's economic plans. But if you look at the full quote, it is easy to see that this quote was outdated and off-topic.
It is wrong that Senator Obama got to go through 15 debates trumpeting his superior judgment and how he had been against the war in every year, enumerating the years, and never got asked one time, not once. Well, how could you say that when you said in 2004 you didn't know how you would have voted on the resolution? You said in 2004 there was no difference between you and George Bush on the war, and you took that speech you're now running on off your website in 2004, and there's no difference in your voting record in Hillary's ever since. Give me a break. This whole thing is the biggest fairy tale I've ever seen.
Bill Clinton actually endorsed Obama at the Democratic National Convention, which is what sparked this political ad. If Romney can get people to believe that Clinton isn't as supportive of Obama as he appears to be, maybe he could gain the back bump in numbers that Obama may get from Clinton's endorsement of him. But luckily, we have learned not to believe everything we hear, and the truth about this ad is now out there.
Now let's take a look at how honest the other side has been recently. During the Democratic convention, Biden claimed that before Osama bin Laden was killed by American forces, Romney stated that it's not worth moving heaven and earth to catch him. Not only did Biden say this at the convention, but Obama released an ad earlier in the year with the same accusation.
That's one thing George Bush said that was right. The president is the decider-in-chief. Nobody can make that decision for you. Look, he knew what would happen. Suppose the Navy SEALs had gone in there and it hadn't been bin Laden. Suppose they'd been captured or killed. The downside would have been horrible for him. But he reasoned. I cannot in good conscience do nothing. he took the harder and the more honorable path, and the one that produced, in my opinion, the best result.
It's not worth moving heaven and earth, spending billions of dollars just trying to catch one person. He was referring to the hunt for Osama bin Laden. What did he mean by that? Because it's generated a little controversy, given Osama bin Laden's role in killing, 3,000 Americans on 9/11.
He had to decide. And that's what you hire a president to do. You hire the president to make the calls when no one else can do it.
You should know by now that there is more to these ads and speeches than what meets the eye. So first things first, let's fact check. The claim, which Republicans disputed, fails to include the rest of Romney's quote from an Associated Press story. Romney said the country's focus should not be on one person, but it should be a broader strategy to defeat the Islamic Jihad movement. Romney's fuller quote from the AP interview done in 2007 offers more information. I think I wouldn't want to over-concentrate on bin Laden. He's one of many, many people who are involved in this global jihadist effort. He's by no means the only leader. It's a very diverse group. Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, Muslim Brotherhood, and of course different names throughout the world. It's not worth moving heaven and earth and spending billions of dollars just to catch one person. It is worth fashioning and executing an effective strategy to defeat global, violent jihad, and I have a plan for doing that. Now we can see that Romney doesn't have a soft spot for bin Laden and isn't against stopping the terrorist movement. He was just thinking more long-term, cautioning us that we shouldn't just focus on finding and killing Osama bin Laden. This may have been a smart plan to neutralize the movement over a period of time, but following 9/11, the popular desire of most Americans was for bin Laden to go down. Now Biden and Obama are using Romney's words against him and out of context. But again, now we know the truth.
While we are talking about Obama, let's look at another comment he made recently where he accuses Mitt Romney of outsourcing jobs to China. At a recent rally in Cincinnati, Obama said the following.
I understand my opponent's been running around Ohio claiming, don't boo, vote. Vote. But he's been running around Ohio claiming he's going to roll up his sleeves and he's going to take the fight to China. Now here's the thing. His experience has been owning companies that were called pioneers in the business of outsourcing jobs to countries like China. He made money investing in companies that uprooted from here and went to China. Pioneers. Now, Ohio, you can't stand up to China when all you've done is sent them our jobs.
Following this comment, there was a lot of research that was done to see whether it was true or not. So let's check the facts and see what we can learn. Obama's reference to Romney owning companies that were pioneers comes directly from a front-page article in the Washington Post. This was the opening sentence. Mitt Romney's financial company, Bain Capital, invested in a series of firms that specialized in relocating jobs done by American workers to new facilities in low-wage countries like China and India. The Obama campaign has misinterpreted this article in some of its television ads. Note, for instance, that the article refers to Bain Capital, not Romney personally. The Washington Post also stated, there is no evidence that Romney, through Bain Investments, in which he had an active role, was responsible for shipping American jobs to China, except for the fact that some of the Bain investments, such as GT Bicycles, were a harbinger of broader trends in the transfer of American jobs overseas. Global tech also benefited from outsourcing, but as far as we can tell, it was a passive investment by a Bain-related hedge fund. That means Romney likely profited from the outsourcing, but that is a far cry from saying that Romney himself was responsible for outsourcing American jobs to China. The issue would have been a great opportunity for Obama to take a jab if there were more evidence supporting it, but he went for it anyway and ended up giving misleading information, which, like everything else the candidates say, got fact-checked and revealed the truth.
We'll end tonight by taking a closer look at Romney's 47% comments secretly videotaped at a closed-door fundraiser back in May. This footage was released Monday, September 17th, and with less than 2 months to Election Day, has put a damper on the Republican candidate's run for presidency. Let's take a look at what he said to see what all the controversy is about.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they are victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. But it's an entitlement, and the government should give it to them. And they will vote for this president no matter what. And I mean, the president starts off with 48, 49, 40, he starts off with a huge number. These are people who pay no income tax. 47% of Americans pay no income tax. So our message of low taxes doesn't connect. And he'll be out there talking about tax cuts for the rich. I mean, that's what they sell every 4 years. And so my job is not to worry about those people. I'll never convince them that they should take personal responsibility and care for their lives. What I have to do is convince the 5 to 10% in the Senate that are independent, that are thoughtful, that look at voting one way or the other depending upon, in some cases, emotion, whether they like the guy or not.
Romney calls nearly half of Americans dependent victims who pay no income tax and will decide to vote for Obama no matter what. He then says it is not his job to worry about these people because he will never convince them they should take personal responsibility and care for their lives. That looks bad on his end no matter what. But let's do a fact check on Romney's comments. First, let's start with the notion that nearly half of Americans do not pay income tax. Yes, as of 2011, about 46% of American households paid no income tax according to the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. But this is one of these facts that is not very informative. Income taxes are just one type of tax that people pay, and for most working Americans, about 3/4, payroll taxes for Social Security and Medicare far exceed what they pay in income taxes. In other words, substitute the phrase federal taxes for income taxes, and then the picture changes dramatically. Indeed, when all federal taxes are included, the percentage of people who pay no taxes drops to 10% or lower, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Moreover, if some people do not pay income taxes, it is because of policies often advocated by Republicans, such as child tax credits and tax benefits for the working poor. Now that we've cleared up the income tax portion of this comment, let's try and figure out why he claims these people will vote for Obama, no questions asked. Not all of these people are automatically Obama supporters. In fact, according to a map published by the Tax Foundation, 8 of the top 10 states with the lowest income tax liability are the heart of Romney country, the Deep South. The only exceptions are Florida, a battleground state, and New Mexico, which leans toward Obama. Meanwhile, most of the states with the lowest levels of non-payers are Obama states. Although Romney's comments were misleading, I believe the most harmful part about this leaked video is that he said it is not his job to worry about the 47% who can't take care of themselves. As a presidential candidate nearing Election Day, you need the nation to know that they can rely on you. Right now, Romney could be in much bigger trouble getting the votes he needs if the lower class doesn't trust him.
And that'll do it for tonight's edition of Get Down. We hope we could shine some light on the truth for you, because we know sometimes it can get pretty shaded by politicians.
Stay tuned next week and be prepared to get down to business with Pat and I once again. Now, back to Dan.
Thanks, Tony and Pat. That was a great segment, compelling and rich. From all of us here at Fact of the Matter 2012, I'm Dan Bixler. May the vote be yours.